Beloved soul, take a quiet moment for yourself right now. Breathe slowly and gently and allow your inner spirit to become calm, because this message did not come before you by accident or random chance. It feels like something deeper guided you here at this exact moment for a reason that is greater than what your mind can fully understand right now. Something is shifting around your life even at this very time. On the outside, it may still look quiet. It may even appear like nothing is changing at all. But beneath what you can see, there are powerful movements taking place that are beyond normal human awareness. Things are unfolding in the background that your natural eyes cannot fully detect yet. And the spiritual message being revealed is that what is happening in your life right now carries far more meaning and importance than you currently realize. You did not argue. You did not plead for answers. You did not send repeated emotional messages trying to fix everything or explain your feelings again and again. Instead, you became still. You reached a point where you stopped chasing someone who had slowly become comfortable receiving your energy, your care, your attention, and your emotional presence without giving the same level of effort back to you. And in that quiet decision, even though it may have felt simple on the surface, something very deep and meaningful started to shift in the unseen part of your life. The person who once believed your presence would always remain available now finds themselves inside a kind of silence they did not expect to face. The emotional warmth you used to give so freely, the openness of your heart, the constant attention and care you provided, all of that energy has now changed direction, and they can feel it, not through conflict, not through arguments, not through dramatic situations, but through absence itself. And absence has a strong emotional effect that often speaks louder than words ever could. Right now, whether they admit it or not, their thoughts about you are becoming deeper and more frequent. They are beginning to question things they once ignored without thinking. They are experiencing emotions they did not expect to feel because, for the first time, they are facing life without your constant effort holding the connection together. And that creates a new emotional reality that they were never prepared to handle in the same way as before. When you stop chasing someone, the change that follows is not always loud or visible, but it is always real on emotional, mental, and even spiritual levels. Before this moment, the connection was mostly moving forward because of your energy, your consistency, your effort, your patience, your understanding, and your willingness to keep showing up were what kept things alive. Your messages, your care, your emotional availability, and your desire to maintain the bond-created movement, even when balance was missing between both sides. Because of your constant effort, they slowly became emotionally comfortable. They did not feel the need to fully question the relationship or deeply reflect on what they truly wanted. They did not have to face the responsibility of making clear emotional decisions, because your presence always filled the gap first. Your energy arrived before emptiness could even be felt, and over time, they started depending on that comfort without fully recognizing the value behind it. A human heart is designed to seek, to choose, and to actively value what matters. But when only one person is carrying all the emotional effort, the other person does not develop the same level of depth or responsibility in the connection. They remain in a space where things feel available without effort, and that often delays true emotional awareness. They were present in the relationship, but they were giving far less than what you were giving. And, beloved, any connection where only one person is carrying most of the emotional weight cannot remain balanced forever. It slowly becomes convenience rather than true partnership. And the moment you stopped chasing, that unbalanced structure began to shake. Not because you created conflict, not because you acted out of anger, but because you stopped supporting something that was never meant to stay one-sided. What once felt stable to them is now beginning to feel uncertain. And when human beings lose emotional certainty, discomfort naturally rises within them. The heart does not easily adjust when something it relied on suddenly becomes distant. Proverbs 4:23 reminds us to guard the heart above everything else, because life flows from it. In this moment, by stepping back, you are no longer abandoning your heart for someone else's comfort. Instead, you are finally protecting it, and that shift opens the door for truth to become visible. Truth about the connection. Truth about this person. Truth about your own emotional journey. And truth about the lessons you were meant to understand through all of this. Before your silence, their attention toward you was mostly passive. They received your effort without feeling strong pressure to return it equally. They responded when it was convenient. They stepped back when they felt uncertain. And all the while, they assumed that your presence would continue returning no matter how little they contributed in return. Your consistency became something they relied on, even if they did not fully acknowledge it. But now, without your presence constantly reaching toward them, something has changed inside their awareness. For the first time, they are beginning to notice your absence in a way they never truly noticed your presence before. And this is not a coincidence. It is part of a deeper emotional and spiritual awakening process. God created the human heart in such a way that people often fail to fully appreciate what is always available to them. When something is constant, the mind slowly becomes used to it. Over time, it becomes background noise. Appreciation fades because availability creates a false sense of certainty. But when that constant presence suddenly disappears or becomes silent, awareness returns quickly. The heart begins to notice what it once took for granted. Your silence now carries weight, not because silence is meant to control or manipulate, but because it interrupted expectations that were quietly formed about you. They expected you to keep showing up. They expected your care to remain unchanged. And when that expectation was no longer met, a gap opened inside them that they can no longer easily ignore. Inside that emotional gap, thoughts are forming. Even if they do not express it openly, internally, they are processing changes. They are replaying past moments in their mind. They are remembering things they did not pay attention to before. They are questioning whether something has shifted in you, or whether something inside them is finally becoming clearer. At first, this is not only about missing you emotionally. It is about the loss of certainty. And many times, emotional awakening begins when certainty is removed. God often uses the breaking of false stability to awaken hearts that became too passive, too comfortable, or too unaware. 1 Corinthians 14:33 reminds us that God is not the source of confusion, but of peace. The confusion they feel now did not come from divine peace. It came from imbalance, avoidance, and lack of honest emotional responsibility. But the clarity that is beginning to rise through your silence is where true awareness starts to form. Beloved, what is happening in this situation is deeper than what most people understand. While you were chasing, you were carrying emotional weight that was never meant to belong only to you. You were giving more, caring more, and investing more consistently. And because of that, the imbalance remained hidden for a long time. Now that your energy has stepped back, that imbalance is no longer hidden. It is visible. It is exposed. They are no longer being emotionally carried by your constant effort. The connection now requires something different from them. It requires participation. It requires emotional responsibility. It requires action instead of passive receiving. And for someone who became used to receiving without equal effort, that shift feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar. On a deeper level, this also connects to how human validation works. When someone is constantly pursued, they slowly begin to feel emotionally important without needing to invest deeply. Your attention acted like a reflection of their value, but when you stop chasing, that reflection disappears, and they are left with their own thoughts without constant emotional reinforcement. This does not mean they suddenly feel worthless, but it does make them question things they avoided thinking about before. They may begin to wonder if they misunderstood your value. They may begin to question whether they took your presence for granted, and they may even begin to realize that losing you is now a real possibility they never seriously considered. Psalm 37:23 says that the steps of a righteous person are guided by the Lord. And in this situation, your movement towards silence and emotional protection is not random. It is part of a guided process, even if it came through confusion or emotional exhaustion. For a long time, they felt comfortable because your presence removed pressure from them. But now that you have stepped back, they are being faced with emotional responsibility they previously avoided. But silence changes everything. Silence removes illusion. Silence exposes what was never balanced. Silence creates space for reflection that words could never force. Now they are left alone with thoughts they once avoided. They are facing emotions they kept buried under distraction, pride, and emotional distance. Your absence has disturbed their comfort zone, and because of that disturbance, awareness is slowly rising within them in a way they can no longer fully control or ignore. Many people do not realize the true value of what they have until they feel it slipping away. It is part of human nature to take what feels stable and certain for granted, while paying attention to what feels uncertain and out of reach. But the moment something familiar starts to fade, the heart begins to wake up. Appreciation does not always come in presence. Sometimes it comes only after absence teaches its lesson. This is why your silence now feels louder than your words ever did. When you are constantly trying, constantly showing up, constantly giving your energy, it created the impression that your presence would always remain the same. But your step back has revealed something deeper. It has shown that your energy, your care, and your emotional presence were never as ordinary as they were treated. Now they are beginning to feel the emptiness of the space you used to fill without being asked. They notice the quiet where your messages used to arrive. They notice the emotional gap where your warmth used to exist. They notice the absence of the one person who continued showing up even when things became confusing, difficult, or emotionally heavy. And even if their pride does not allow them to say it openly, something inside them is starting to understand your true importance in their life. Beloved, understand this deeply. Your worth was never meant to be proven through chasing someone who could not meet you halfway. Your value was never dependent on how much you could convince someone to stay. Real love is not built through exhaustion on one side and silence on the other. Real connection grows through balance, effort from both sides, and mutual emotional responsibility. You were never meant to lose yourself while trying to hold together something that another person refused to carry with equal care. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is become still. Sometimes silence becomes protection instead of punishment. Sometimes stepping back is not giving up, but finally allowing truth to rise without interference. When you stop forcing what is not flowing naturally, reality begins to reveal itself without distortion. And even if your mind still carries uncertainty, there is a higher awareness that sees everything clearly. Nothing about your effort, your patience, or your emotional struggle was hidden from God. Every silent tear, every confused prayer, every moment you tried to hold things together while feeling unbalanced inside, all of it has been seen. Nothing was ignored, nothing was wasted. Your silence is not rejection. Your withdrawal is not cruelty. It is wisdom slowly replacing emotional exhaustion. It is self-respect returning after being ignored for too long. It is your spirit finally choosing peace over confusion. And whether this person eventually rises with honesty and effort, or whether life redirects you towards something more aligned with your growth, one truth remains unchanged. By stepping back, you have created space for truth to reveal itself without interference. No more illusion, no more imbalance hidden behind effort, no more carrying something alone while calling it shared love. Now reality can show itself fully, and whatever remains after silence will be what is truly real, not what was maintained by your constant effort alone. Do not fear the silence. Do not rush to fill the emptiness that has been created. Some spaces are not meant to be immediately filled. Some spaces are meant to reveal truth first. What is meant for you will never require you to destroy your inner peace just to keep it alive. Now listen carefully, because there are deeper spiritual layers unfolding through this experience. There are 7 powerful ways in which silence becomes a tool of truth, a tool that reveals what words and effort alone could never fully expose. The first way is through the exposure of imbalance. When you are constantly giving, constantly reaching, and constantly trying to maintain the connection, the imbalance was easy to overlook. Your effort covered the gaps that already existed, but now that your energy has been pulled back, everything becomes visible. The uneven emotional contribution can no longer hide behind your persistence. They are now left to see how much of the connection was being carried by you alone. This realization is not meant to create blame, but awareness, because without awareness, nothing in life can truly change or heal. The second way is through deep reflection. Silence creates stillness, and stillness forces honesty. When distractions fade, thoughts become louder. When your presence is no longer there to fill emotional space, they are left alone with their own mind. And in that space, truth begins to surface slowly. They start to think about what you meant to them, what they overlooked, and what they assumed would always be available. Reflection brings questions they avoided before, and those questions begin to open emotional doors they once kept closed. The third way is through the test of initiative. Earlier, you were the one carrying movement in the connection. You were the one initiating, repairing, and trying to bridge emotional distance. But now that role has shifted completely. The responsibility to act, to reach, and to show care now belongs to them. And what they do with that responsibility reveals everything. If the connection holds real value in their heart, they will feel the need to act, not out of pressure, but out of realization. And if there is no movement at all, that silence also becomes an answer in itself. The fourth way is through the exposure of emotional maturity. Not everyone handles absence in the same way. A mature heart does not respond to silence with ego or avoidance. It responds with reflection and honesty. It tries to understand rather than defend itself. But an immature emotional response often leads to withdrawal, pride, or avoidance of responsibility. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects who they truly are emotionally, not who they pretend to be during comfort and ease. The fifth way is through the revealing of true feelings. Sometimes presence can mask reality. When someone is always available, it can create emotional dependence rather than true understanding. But when you step back, all external support is removed. What remains is what is real. If feelings are genuine, they will grow stronger in your absence. If they were based mostly on comfort and routine, that illusion begins to fade. Either way, truth becomes clearer than before, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. The sixth way is through your own spiritual awakening. This is not only about what they are experiencing, it is also about what is happening inside you. Your silence is creating space within your spirit. Space where confusion once lived is now slowly being replaced with clarity. You are no longer pouring all your energy outward toward someone who may not be fully meeting you emotionally. That energy begins returning back to you, and in that return, you start reconnecting with yourself again. Your thoughts become calmer. Your emotions become more stable. Your inner voice becomes louder than emotional confusion. You begin to see what you ignored while trying to hold something together that was not fully aligned. And the seventh way is the most important. It is the revelation of truth that brings final clarity. Silence does not just expose them, it also protects you from illusion. It removes the emotional noise that once made everything unclear. It allows reality to stand on its own without your effort shaping it. If this connection is truly meant to grow, it will survive honesty. It will survive distance. It will survive silence, because real connection does not depend on constant chasing. But if it cannot survive without your constant effort, then that itself becomes the answer you needed all along. So remain steady in this phase. Do not rush toward what is stepping away from you. Do not force clarity where time is still revealing truth. Let silence do its work. Let distance speak. Let actions replace words, because what is meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself in order to keep it close.